We are live. Let's go. Let's dive straight into it. We are going to jump straight into the news. Will, how you doing today, mate?
I'm good. I'm suffering from a little bit of hay fever, so I might have my hand hovered over the mute button to stop myself sneezing on the recording. But we'll
Mate,
power through.
absolutely. You sneeze away. No worries. And I hope you guys are all well who are joining us. We're just going to crack on and fire into the news articles. I'm actually going to do the timer thing, which I always forget to do. So let's just quickly do that. And Will, let's hit the first headline, which
Let me share my
is
screen.
the AI news. Let me just make sure I press go. Press go. Right, here we go. 5 minutes on this one. Google DeepMind unveils Genie 3 word models that trains robots in virtual warehouses. Now, Will, we touched on this yesterday's
We
show.
did.
We talked about Genie 3, and we were just talking about, it's the incredible technology. We're trying to figure out how, what are the use cases and how it's going to be used and all the rest of it. And I think that's where, a lot of the, interesting products will get built out. And I thought, although we talked about it yesterday, I thought this was relevant because it talks about a real world use case, which is going to be a world of robots, which is, I think a reality that a lot of people aren't are going to be, maybe shocked by, maybe are aware of. But I think when it happens, it's already happening, isn't it? Robots in warehouses and all the rest of it. But I think it's just going to accelerate more and more.
Yeah, and it goes beyond just robots and virtual warehouses. That's just one of these sort of more commercial use cases. I think yesterday when we showed off the video and some of the examples of the Genie 3 model, I think a lot of people initially, well, at least I did, jump towards, oh my god, you can use text to generate your own like games, which is one use case for sure. But I think the lesser talked about version is these commercial use cases for training humans as well, robots, and other sort of entities within these virtual simulations. It's very powerful. I mean, if you think you could simulate any world, any environment, and put, a human or a robot into that simulation, you could what you could do is amazing because it's another level to the simulation.
Yeah, and they were sort of suggesting that this world modeling is considered a cornerstone in the march towards AGI, which is rapidly approaching as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's interesting because many people have many different definitions for AGI actually is. However, this is again another level of intelligence. It's not necessarily this is not what I would consider AGI. You consider AGI, at least in my definition, as one of the entity you can talk to that is far supersedes human capabilities in terms of knowledge and helps discover new knowledge. At the moment, LLMs and AI don't really discover new knowledge per se. They just increase productivity of known knowledge. But it's certainly a massive leap forward. I mean, something like this, being powered by artificial intelligence is, a huge thing. I mean, it's wild to think about.
When do you think we'll see, robots regularly on the streets, in your high street, in your home, when do you think that's going to happen? I mean, I know it's $1 million question, but
I was going to say it's impossible to say, isn't it? I mean, we already see robots in the home. I mean, you can see like basic ones that do hoovering, or the ones that cut your lawn. So there are already robots in the home. I guess what you're referring to is like robots, humanoid robots, like that we had, like some of the TV shows we have here in the UK. Humans was a big one back in the 2010s. That shows off these humanoid type androids. I think we're a long way off of that. Personally, we're making leaps and bounds of progress towards it. However, if you look at the latest humanoid robots, we still have a long way to go before they're commercially viable for the average person to buy, and also they're good enough to be used. So I think we're not going to be seeing them walk in the streets for a while. But maybe I'm wrong.
50 years?
No, not 50 years. 10, 20 years maybe. I don't know. I don't know enough about the field of robotics and the progress being made. However, from what I do see, yeah, I mean, it seems quite far off.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, obviously, that in warfare, it will be seen in Ukraine with drone warfare, and I guess they have like these robotic machines with guns and things like that. And they're starting to be
Yeah.
sort of used,
This
which
is
is
exactly what I mean by what do you mean by robots? Because we already have robots doing all sorts of things in, as you said, it already in warehouses, already in commercial spaces, already some in the home doing very basic tasks. So it's not a suddenly this appears. It's an exponential curve that's already happening and will only get faster, and you'll see more and more of it.
just the time's about to go, but just quickly, do you think we'll see robots in the form of like a humanoid sort of where they can do a humanoid form where they can do multiple tasks from like the sort of things that we do, or do you think we'll see more and more robots that are specifically trained, like you sort of touched on, for a particular task, like you see in warehouses? They're just trained for a purpose, in manufacturing, building cars.
I think that's where we are now, which is where the robots are being used for much more specific tasks, because that's easier to achieve than a general purpose robot. However, I definitely think we'll make it there. I mean, we're looking at, and we'll talk about the new GPT-5 release from OpenAI and a little bit about their vision for the future. But that's what we're seeing with these large language models and these AIs that you can interact with virtually, is that we're moving much more towards a general purpose tool, and that will extend to robots too.
Brilliant. Okay, well, sorry, I've just taken us over a little bit on the time. Let's move on to the next headline. Demis Hassabis, AI will be 10 times bigger and faster than the Industrial Revolution. DeepMind's Demis Hassabis, freshly decorated with a Nobel, predicts that AI's transformative power could surpass the Industrial Revolution by a factor of 10 in both scale and speed. What's your thoughts?
I mean, I think he's quite right, really. I think this is another magnitude. It's at least similar to the Industrial Revolution. However, I think it will be in an order of magnitudes bigger. Do you know what I mean? I mean, in the Industrial Revolution, the factories were transformed and industry was transformed. However, I think that with this AI revolution, especially the speed that it is moving, and it is moving fast, that there will be a huge amount of displacement and overhaul of how society works generally, bigger than the Industrial Revolution ever was.
Are we ready as a society to deal with this?
No, I wouldn't say so. Would you say so? I don't think it. I mean, besides people we speak to generally, most people have only used maybe they've used ChatGPT. They don't really know anything more. GPT-4o. They don't even know it's called GPT-4o. I think this is a bit of that people are sleepwalking into a huge revolution. I mean, people that are slightly more in the know what's coming, and also see these frontier research models and things coming out, and you see, wow, this is the way it's going. I mean, I see LinkedIn posts after LinkedIn posts already about people being talked about job displacement. I'm not saying these are all good things. I mean, these are things that we really need to tackle and have a plan for, because there is going to be big job displacement. And what do you do as a society if you're not ready for
that? You know what? It's such an unprecedented time, and I just don't think we, as a society, we have a clue how to deal with it. I mean, I know there's the argument that we'll find, people will find new jobs. There'll be new roles that haven't been created yet, and maybe we become, AI prompters in the future, or whatever it is. Yeah. It's. I think the challenge is it's almost impossible to see into the future, if that makes sense. When everything's calm, everything's settled, you've got a good idea that what happened in the past is likely to going to happen in the future. But and therefore that gives you that, I guess, security of comfort, of predictability. But when you sort of start imagining what could happen and what is being built and the technologies, you think, well, what does that mean for work, meaning, your purpose? I gave a talk actually in Exeter, didn't I, about this sort of thing. Do we stop working, for just to make money, or do we have work more as a because it's sort of fulfilling and it's your purpose? do we get paid? Money. Does money even exist? What does money mean if there's no labor? There's no if humans don't do any work. All of these really philosophical and ethical questions that are just unknown, and I think this is probably where the philosophers need to start sharing their thoughts and start imagining what the future could hold, because while the technologies are building, it almost feels like you touched on that everyone, the majority, are literally sleepwalking into a potentially dystopian future. I like to be positive, so I don't think it will be. But inevitably, humans have a habit of doing good things, and they have a habit of doing bad things. Well, we've just hit the 5-minute timer. Should we? Do you want to finish on a point there?
This is definitely a topic we should talk about. There's so many things. As you were talking, I was thinking of so many things to say. This is definitely a topic we should talk more on, because it's really we work in a really weird space where we are pioneering this stuff as well. And pushing for AI. I think ultimately we both believe it's great for humanity and it will be a positive force. But there is so many things that could go wrong as well. And I think it's the only way to, and no one really has many answers. So the only way to get there, I think, is through dialogue. So we should definitely talk about this. Maybe do.
And just to quickly say on that, I think that if people are worried about things, then build something that's going to be positive. I think have an impact, and don't just sit there being a commentator. So actually have a positive impact and make a difference. Right, moving on quickly.
And to be fair, we can actually keep talking about it, because the next article is talking about it as well. Oh, that's you. Let's make you still getting used to the software. So this, again, we can follow on from it. This is also about talking about how AI is entering into an unprecedented regime. Should we stop it? And can we, before it destroys us? I don't think we should stop it. However, I think there's, again, just to carry on from where you sort of left off with something like the Industrial Revolution, that revolution was about taking away jobs that we didn't want to do as humans. They were dangerous jobs. They were unpleasant jobs. They were long hours. They were hard labor. That's what the Industrial Revolution replaced. So people were, better off for it, even if they didn't think so at the time. However, what we're seeing is, AI is taking the jobs that we actually quite like doing, creative jobs, artistic jobs, all of these things, where you get to express yourself. AI is coming for them first. Copywriters, graphic designers, programmers to a degree, which is, that's a whole other thing. So it is, and as this article says, AI is entering this unprecedented regime, and it's starting to really speed up. It's not gradual progress that we're going to see over the next 10, 15 years. I think we're going to see how this impacts the workforce over the next 5 easily.
Yeah. And, I mean, most of the commentary around the really explosive, when it really kicks off with AGI, is around 2030. But some commentators are thinking it could be sooner than that, even by 2027. And again, like you touched on, that's when AI starts learning and reinforcing its own learning and exponentially becoming more and more intelligent. So it's what's your definition of AGI as well? It's an interesting one. But I think, like you sort of touched on, do we do anything about it? Can we stop it? I think the genie's, the genie's out of the bag, isn't it? There's nothing that can be stopped, and there's nothing that can be done. It's almost, it's almost like an arms race, certainly between not just organizations and companies, but it's now between countries. Oh, Will, you're on mute, mate.
I am. You're right. I think it's very interesting, because no one has any answers. I don't have any answers. You don't have any answers. I think we can't even begin to really imagine what an end future may look like. Whenever you do hear about it, it's wildly different. It's very sci-fi, which is strange to talk about as like a near future kind of thing. There was an interesting video from a guy. I mean, I won't pretend. I will have to pull it up at some point. But basically, it was a guy that had predicted technological revolutions very accurately, and so he made his predictions on the progress of AI and how things could go horribly wrong and also go well. And that's a really interesting stance to look at, because it talks through how we as humans can let things slide the wrong way or the right way, depending on just a few choices. So I think there's a couple of key things that we can do correctly, which is to make sure that we distribute intelligence to general people so everyone gets access. It's not something that's hidden behind big paywalls or inaccessible by people. I really believe in open source, open ownership of this technology, so that everybody is playing from an equal playing field or as much as possible. And educating people on the power of these tools. We will find jobs to do, and jobs will change. So it's just important that people. I don't like how people are sort of sleepwalking into it at the moment. Most people haven't heard of it, so I think it'd be important to continue to educate people.
So, mate, we're just moving on to the next story now. The buzz is beeping. It feels like this podcast is quite a deep one, Will. It's not usually our style. We're getting deep, and we're just about to go even deeper now. So, audience, I do apologize. We are usually very positive and
Well, before I pull up the article, I think this is a really important point, and one of the reasons why I personally love artificial intelligence as a technology, and I love talking about it. It's because it's this crazy world where sci-fi meets frontier technology, meets philosophy, meets ethical questions, meets spirituality. Like it's wild, isn't it? It's the first technology where this is a thing, and that's why I find it interesting.
It is probably. I can't even speak properly. I can't even get my words out. It is wild. Shall I just say? Right, listen. Okay, so this next story, guys, is I believe he's an ex-CNN host or news reporter, a guy called Jim Acosta. So he interviewed an AI-generated avatar of a deceased teen to discuss gun control. It was. Let me just have a look. It was a conversation with an AI avatar of. Forgive me if I've got his name wrong, Joaquin Oliver, the late Parkland shooting victim. And it was created by his father and an advocacy group. So, very powerful and, unsettling and in many respects. But obviously they're trying to do things to, avoid these types of things happening. Yeah. Well, what's your sort of thoughts on it? I mean, this is just, incredible and scary and dystopian, and I guess it throws all of those emotions into it. And for the father to do something like this is just, it's wild, but it's like brave, and it's very powerful, isn't it?
I think before I say anything, obviously the greatest condolences to the families of anything like this that happens. I think that's really important to say. And of course, they were about to talk about that. So biggest condolences and respects to the family. But this is, to be fair, when you pulled this article up, I wasn't necessarily sure about it, as because it is one of those things where I'm not really sure how I feel. But I think you painted it in a light that became that. Okay, let's talk about it then. And that's the fact that this is the side of AI where it brings up a lot of questions about ethics, about morality, about what intelligence is, and that is a really fascinating spiritual side to this technology that isn't often talked about, and that's a really interesting conversation. Whether you think this was the right thing to do or not, this is the result of it. These are the questions we have to think about. Is this the right thing to do?
Absolutely. And I mean, the reality is, we could be seeing a future where you could be effectively digitalized and live forever, and be a companion to your future generations. Whether you want to do that, or whether your family want that, who knows?
Do you think that's a good thing?
I just don't know, if I'm honest. I haven't properly digested it, and I think I would have to just. It'll be one of the. I'm not often one for making decisions quickly or lightly, so I tend to sometimes want to sleep on big decisions and sort of thoughts and let these sort of ideas sort of whirl in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can see huge benefits. You can see, potentially huge downsides as well. If somebody loses a loved one, it could be incredibly comforting. But then, should we also as humans learn to, deal with loss and deal with tragedy? I don't know. It's, again, with this whole, I guess, podcast is very, very quite deep, as we touched on. It's a really, really, really tricky one.
I think that, to be fair, more people would want to speak to their loved ones or a version of them after they're gone. I mean, let's linger on it just for a second. We'll wrap up and go to the next story. But yeah, I think it's really interesting because there's a huge amount of moral debates here to whether it's right, whether people would want to. Again, even if we made an exact copy of you, your intelligence. We talked yesterday or maybe the day before about neuromorphic computers, where you're trying to mimic brains and the model and the architecture behind brains. And so if we in the future make an exact copy of you, right, and put it on a neuromorphic computer, you live forever. Is that you, or is the version that died in the ground you? If it's an exact copy in every way and a mimic of your consciousness, who's the real Ben, or are you both the real Ben? So it's it's a bit of it's one of these topics where suddenly this artificial intelligence brings into question what your own being even is, which is what's really crazy to me to talk about. It's, again, this technology is crazy, making you question what you even are.
I don't know if I was prepared for this heavy podcast at 9 o'clock in the morning. I've just got up. I haven't even had a cup of tea.
That's the power of AI. To be honest with you, that's the power of AI. It hits our lives in ways that you don't even expect it to. Where you're questioning your own being, you're questioning all these what's morally correct. Across so many different vectors, and that's why I love it as well, because these are fascinating, intense conversations. But yes, in terms of this article, to wrap it up, I am not sure. I think I understand the positive message, and obviously all my thoughts go out to the victims of these kind of crimes.
Yeah.
However, I completely also understand the criticism of it as well. It is weirdly uncanny and spooky, and I don't know if it's the right thing to do in this circumstance. Hard to say.
I guess ultimately, if it gives people comfort and it helps people, then
yes, agreed.
Then why not? But let's move on, mate. Let's move on. Just to say, these images that you can see, that is not of these people. That's the federal.
Yes, playing random video.
I think that's it below. Yeah. So.
Shall we move to the big news? Other than these just discussions about some article headlines and some general AI.
Yes.
This is the big news that happened yesterday, which is OpenAI finally releasing their GPT-5 model, which is obviously been long awaited, long thought about, speculated what's going to be included, how good it's going to be, and it's here. There's a big old article on it, and I don't know if you've had a chance to look at it yet, Ben, or read anything about it. Because I was going to ask you what you think, but if you haven't, I'm happy to talk about it too.
Yeah, well, I'll be honest, mate. I haven't had a chance to really digest it. All I can see, by all accounts, enterprises can now harness expert level performance in code, writing, health, and finance.
Yeah.
So guys, just to share with you, all of these podcasts are very much, we are digesting the news as we're seeing it. It's very sort of live, and we're sharing it with you. So we're sort of almost like you said the other day, we're reacting to it, we will. Test time compute, dynamic approach enabling smarter reasoning on the fly could represent a major leap in capability. And the other thing was, amidst booming AI investments, valuations. Okay, so just basically valuation is just of OpenAI is going through the roof. I think they're doing. I read some investors are wanting to buy some of the shares from some of the employees and ex-employees, and they're given a valuation of something like 500 billion or 700 billion. I can't remember. So I'm sure that it'll be a nice payday for those people who were working there, got those shares.
Yeah, absolutely. So the GPT-5 is obviously, they have a lot. OpenAI has felt like they're lagging behind a little bit, so they've had to really come out the bag and like pull something out of the bag here with GPT-5. And I think they have. It's obviously, you can't understate the amount of resources it's taken to bring a model like this to the forefront. It is benchmarked as the best model in the world in many vectors. It's very, very good. I've given it a brief go. I'm going to give it more of a go yesterday because when it was released, it was getting quite late in the day in the UK. So I'm going to give it more of a go today through some personal benchmarking with coding and maths and things like that. But from the initial feedback, it is a big leap forward. It achieves unprecedented benchmarks. And I think what's actually more interesting is how OpenAI are starting to position this technology and the cost around it, because I think it informs, again, a little bit about where we're going. So Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, he made a tweet that literally said that this is the best model they've ever released, but they could have released an even smarter model, and they will do it. But at the moment, they're focusing on making a model that is useful to as many people as possible. They're trying to bring AI to the people. They say this GPT-5 model will bring amazing expert level intelligence to billions of people. And they're releasing it for free as well. You can use a version of GPT-5 completely for free. Don't have to pay for it. And then obviously they do have their paid tiers. Not only that, they've also released it at an unprecedentedly small cost compared to competitors, especially their largest model, the GPT-5, the flagship version of it. It's the equivalent one that was released recently by Anthropic was Opus 4.1. That was released earlier this week, or late last week. Opus 4.1, which again, unprecedented benchmarks, really state of the art. And they're running at $75 per million output tokens. So it's measured in per million output tokens, $75. GPT-5, a benchmarked better model, we'll see if it is in the real world use, but that's only being charged at $10 per million output tokens. They've really lowered the cost to make it accessible. It's
Amazing.
fascinating.
Amazing. Well, I can't wait to have a play with it, mate, and see how we get on. So it should be exciting, and something for everyone to try themselves and jump on. So
my personal favorite thing that it does, and what they're talking about, is that they're moving towards giving AI a blank canvas so that you can say that it can create its own user experiences for you. So if you say write a beatbox song about the release of GPT-5, this is another example that Sam Altman gave. It can spin up a UI in real time of a beatbox and play those beats. So it's inventing UIs to meet your requests instead of predetermining what a UI should be. It has a canvas to work from its own. It's really moving towards this sort of general feeling intelligence.
Amazing,
fascinating.
Amazing. It's a wild world we live in, and it's an exciting place to be. So listen, and I think we'll wrap it up. Will, anything else to add?
I think we've covered quite a lot of. I'm going to need a rest again. I'm going to go back to bed. We talked about some deep things, and I haven't even had a coffee.
I know, it's exhausting. I was making a cup of tea, and I forgot to pour it. It's still in the pot. I make tea out of pots. It's very old-fashioned, I know, but
it's very stereotypical. I mean, we're
stereotypical English in a pot of tea.
Nothing wrong with that.
My wife hates it. She bashes the bag and just like gets on with it. But I just find it tastes different. But hey, there you go. So I'm going to enjoy my cup of tea, and we'll crack on with the day. Listen, everyone, thanks so much for joining. We'll catch you. Actually, not tomorrow, because tomorrow is Saturday, and we are having the weekend off, and we'll join you back on Monday. So we'll catch up with you soon.
Absolutely. Thanks for watching.
Cheers, guys.